Hello, good evening and welcome. It's Friday and it's 8 o'clock and that means it's time for Buster's Virtual Jazz Club. That's right, we're streaming live on YouTube, live to infinity and beyond. So if anyone's out there, do say hello in the chat box. It's nice to know we've got some listeners. I hope you had a great week and enjoying the beautiful weather we've been having in a spring London. Hi John Quinn, John's in the house, great to see you, mate. And I've got to just say a big thank you to my new patron who signed up this week, Derek Cross. A big shout out to Derek, thank you for joining me on Patreon. And also a big thank you to all my regular Patreon subscribers and to everyone who makes a donation on PayPal. It means a huge amount and has really been a big help this year. And thank you for all your lovely messages that you send me. Don't forget to visit my website, the link's below, Buster Birch Virtual Jazz Club, where you can watch all of the past shows and see who's my upcoming guest will be. So on to tonight's show. My guest this evening was born in Edinburgh and began learning the saxophone at 15 years of age. In 1992, she won the Young Scottish Jazz Musician of the Year. Inspired and encouraged by local Edinburgh musicians, she went on to study saxophone at the Guildhall School of Music in London and also at the Berkeley School of Music in Boston after receiving a full fee scholarship for their summer jazz programme. After recording her debut album, Here and Now, the legendary British trumpeter Humphrey Lyttelton invited her to join his 8-piece band. She toured all over the UK with this group and performed in many theatres and concert halls, as well as most of the major UK jazz festivals. Hump's fun-filled and melodic approach to music was to become a big influence in her own compositions. She also recorded and performed with Acker Bilk, Tina May, Joe Temperley, Scott Hamilton, Elkie Brooks and many others. Her influences include Illinois Jacquet, Sonny Rollins, Dexter Gordon, Cannibal Adderley and Bill Evans, and her big mellow tone is often compared to Stan Getz and Zoot Sims. And I'm very pleased to say she was here with us now live on YouTube, and for those of you that didn't already know, I'm even more pleased to say she's also my wife. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very wonderful Jo Fooks. Hello, love.
Hiya, long time no see.
Well, thank you for joining me and giving up your time this evening, as I always say. And it's quite weird, this, isn't it? Because I was just thinking just now, this is with the internet and everything, and Wi-Fi and YouTube. This is going all over the world, and it's going up to space and back down again. And you're just sitting upstairs in the spare room, aren't you? So it's pretty mad, isn't it? When you think of it. Well, thank you for coming on the show this evening. How are you? And as I like to say, how have you been keeping?
I've been really good, thank you. Yeah, just enjoying the lovely weather. Makes such a difference when the sun comes out. It's
Yes.
so easy to be more positive.
Yes.
And yeah, it's good. So yeah.
And for the listeners, what have you been doing during lockdown? Because you've had a funny year, and initially, like a lot of people I know, you lost quite a lot of gigs, a lot of live performances. Everything got cancelled overnight, and but I know you've been keeping very busy with teaching online and keeping the Zoom going, haven't you? But how's that been for you?
Well, yeah, I had quite a lot of gigs cancelled at the start of lockdown, but actually quite a few of those gigs are starting to come back in with the venues opening up, and the kind of lockdown really feels like we've come to the end of a very dark tunnel, and it feels very much like, I was reading the other day, 60% of people have been vaccinated, which is just great. So hopefully, we're going to have a better summer, and then it'll be all the better for having gone through this year. So feeling quite positive about the future. So
that's good. And I know you've been working on a new project that you've got going on, haven't you? So involving a slight change of musical direction, and you're setting yourself up with some because I reckon this summer it's going to go nuts with the gigs, with the party kind of gigs, isn't it? I think there's going to be a lot of parties. Start with probably a lot of outdoor stuff. Yeah. So you've got yourself a lovely little portable PA, and you've been learning some new repertoire.
Well, really through teaching, I really was so grateful. At the start of lockdown, I'd actually built my teaching up by quite a chunk. So at the start of lockdown, I had quite a lot of students. So that just took a bit of pressure off, and I was able to keep teaching through Zoom. And I teach lots of children, so mainly sort of primary age up to about, well, actually up to about 82 actually, but most of the kids, most of my
Up
students
to
are little.
82, yeah.
Just
From
kids,
primary, yeah,
young.
that's quite a range there. Well, that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
And I just sort of figured that sometimes jazz can be a bit inaccessible to some of the younger kids. So I thought I sort of looked at some new repertoire that involved improvising and that the kids would enjoy. So I was looking at funk, and I started getting charts for Pick Up the Pieces, The Chicken, getting my little, I don't know, I think I got an 8-year-old learning a Maceo Parker solo, and he was amazing, you know. So so through teaching, I sort of read, and I got a disco light, which I did have on.
Well, somebody's already asked. Laurie and Paul have said, "Where's the disco light?" So here we go. That's for you, Laurie and Paul.
We had it on earlier, but Buster said it looked a bit odd, so I turned it
Well,
on.
no, it's fine. I just think there's something about the light on the computer screen. It looks a bit trippy, doesn't it? It's kind of, if you stare at it, it goes a bit 3D. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Turn it off a little bit.
No, you can leave it on. That's all right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's all right. And so they're getting all this repertoire. I just sort of really got, I think if a lot of people on here have actually mentioned, you know, you've always got to look at the silver linings in a situation, and I find that helps keep you strong. And one thing about the lockdown was I just sort of wanted to keep practicing the saxophone, but I didn't have to, like usually when I had gigs, I was always be practicing towards that gig and, you know, getting prepared for that. So it was a set kind of repertoire. I forget things all the time, so I had to revise always, and there's a little bit of pressure in that. So when all the gigs got cancelled, it was like, well, I can practice anything. And so it's been really nice, and just sort of, you know, getting into learning some Jackson 5 tunes, you know, Michael Jackson tunes, Stevie Wonder. I love Stevie Wonder. Just playing along with all this sort of
Earth, Wind and Fire. We've been getting Kool and the Gang.
Tower of Power, you know.
Tower of Power, yeah.
It's been lovely. So, you know, just playing the saxophone, because I just love to make a noise and play the saxophone. So, and that, I mean, I'm so looking forward to doing gigs again. That would just be amazing. But you know, it is what it is, and you're got to make the most of it, really. So
we should be clear. You're still going to be doing your guest spots. You're still going to be doing your jazz stuff. You've still got the quintet going. But you're also going to be doing some private events and parties and doing your Disco Diva set, which is going to sounding great. You're absolutely tearing it up on all that stuff, and I think people are going to love it, because it's not only that repertoire, but when you're improvising over it, I think it's a bit different to like a normal kind of listen to somebody do karaoke, isn't it? You're actually improvising and playing jazz over this music. It's just that it's more kind of funky party stuff, isn't it?
It's just been lovely, because it's like more sort of pentatonic things, and I haven't really explored much of that, and it's just like opens up a new way of playing and a different soundscape. And so so what I figured is I've got all this repertoire from my students, and like I've got my students playing "I'll Survive," which the mums have really loved.
The mums love it, yeah.
You do, and I was just like, oh, that's and even some of the kids, I was like, oh, do you know this one? Like, we're going to be doing Blame on the Boogie with the kids and Celebration, and they're like these children, they actually know these tunes, and so.
But a lot of that disco stuff, they were those bands like the Crusaders. You've been checking out, haven't you?
Life
and Kool and the Gang, and they started off playing jazz. A lot of those guys, and then they kind of just switched to more popular stuff. So I'm sure that's going to be very popular.
Kind of going the other way, aren't I?
Pick on the other, No, you've done what they've done, yeah. So there's a few people we've got to say hello to now. Robin's here. Hi, Robin. And Laurie and Paul. Steve Clark's enjoying a nice Pinot Grigio. And Mary Proudlock. Hello. Lovely to see all you guys. And Mary says she loves the lights as well. Maybe we'll switch them back on.
I'll put them back on. Thanks, Mary.
So there we go. That's Joe's disco parlour. And... well, look, let's talk a little bit about your... so one of the things you were doing a lot was guest spots. So that's your kind of main thing, bread and butter thing, isn't it? You go around and you guest lots of various venues, and you always go down incredibly well, and they all absolutely love you, I know. And there's one lady who runs quite a few venues who's become a good friend of ours, Susan May. And when one of the things that you've often done, we'll come to your composing, I think, in a bit, but something that you always do when you write tunes, you like to write them either about someone or dedicate them to someone, don't you? And so we're going to play a track. This first track is one that you've selected. You've selected all the music for tonight. So just tell us a little bit about this one, if you will.
Well, Susan May is just a really lovely lady and works incredibly hard, and has just given so much work and exposure to like thousands of musicians. You know, she really, really works hard and deserves many awards for all the work that she's done. And I just thought it's just one way of just saying thank you. You come up with a tune and say, "Oh, I'm going to dedicate that one to you." And I've done many gigs at Sue's place, so I just called this one "Jamming at Sue's Place."
And just before we play this, somebody's asked, and what's the name of your new disco venture? And should we tell them what it's going to be called? I'm
going to be called Uptown Girl.
Uptown Girl.
That was
Isn't
my
that great?
first ever record. I used to dance to Uptown Girl with my friend Polly Moffat. We had a little dance routine.
You do little dance routines, yeah. Okay, so watch out for Uptown Girl, folks. If you want any music for parties and things. Yeah, so this track, this is you've got 3 albums of all your own music that you produced and recorded, and this is from the album called Back for More. Is the name of the album. And the track is called Jammin' at Sue's Place, yeah. And we should probably mention the band. Do you want to just say who's on this?
Oh, I can't remember.
It's the quintet. So this is you on saxophone. We've got Ted Beeman on the piano, Dave Cliff on the guitar, yes. Val Mannix on the bass, myself on the drums, and Derek Nash guested on a few tracks, which we're going to play one of those later. I don't think Derek's on this one. So this is Jammin' at Sue's Place, dedicated to Susan May. Yeah, that was Jamming at Sue's Place, dedicated to Susan May, composed by my guest, Joe Fooks. Lovely. I'm going to really try hard to not answer all the questions for you.
That's okay.
I do have a habit of doing that, and of course it's going to be even worse with you. But yeah, I know. Otherwise, I just keep talking. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, so yeah. The thing I love about that is it just really swings, and you always play with such energy in your music. And you have, and again, you write these really great tunes. They're really kind of catchy, kind of numbers, and they're real earworms. A lot of your tunes, they really do get sort of stuck in your ear. And again,
I drink a lot of tea and coffee. That's why it's always a bit fast and frantic, I think.
Yes, you do.
I got into drinking lots of Red Bull before a gig just to give me that energy.
I remember that. Yes, you were drinking loads of Red Bull. It was mad.
I was chatting to Pete Ringrose, and I said, "Oh no, I don't drink. I've given up caffeine." And he said, "Like thinking of giving up tea and coffee." And he said, "Well, there's so much caffeine in the Red Bull." I was like, "Oh yeah, but this doesn't count."
Yeah, no, but it's good to have that sort of energy if you can kind of channel it, I suppose. But no, but your tunes. There's something about your tunes that they're always really strong.
I tried to. Well, I haven't written for a long time, but when I was sort of writing tunes, I wanted to write happy tunes. Just tunes that cheer people up, because I was thinking, why not? It's and when my first album, it was quite minory because I just got started getting into writing, I know I used to write when I was teaching, and I say a kid didn't turn up, and I could always write better if I was a bit tired, sitting at the piano, nothing else to do, and I was like, well, I may as well try and come up with a tune. So it's another thing to be grateful for, the teaching.
So are these the minor ones, the miserable ones, when the student's not turned up?
No, but you just kind of got me into writing, because it's very easy to write in a minor key, because the scales are just beautiful, and the minor 2-5-1 chord progression is a lovely sound, and it's very easy to come up with something, but it tends to kind of just bring you down a bit. And I thought the challenge is the major key is quite a bland sort of scale, and it's much more challenging to come up with something really jolly. So I wanted to just try. My first album was quite a lot of minor-y sort of tunes, because I was just starting to write, and then the second.
So you found it. Sorry to interrupt, but what you're saying is you found it easier to write in the minor keys, and so that's why when you started, you were writing more tunes that tended to be in the minor key, and then as you got more experience in composing, and you kind of found your voice a bit more. Then you challenge yourself to write in major keys, major tonalities, and more jolly, happy tunes. And you're right, they are. It's harder to write a good, happy tune, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's what I tend to like to do. Like as a musician, I feel I'm more of an entertainer, and I kind of learned that through Humph. It's like, so when I do a guest spot, I do a set list, a program, and I think about tunes that are accessible to the audience. So I'm very happy to play tunes like Diamonds a Girl's Best Friend, Bring Me Sunshine, those sort of tunes, because I know people can sing along, and it cheers them up.
They're great tunes, isn't it? One of them tunes. I mean, but even when you do your original stuff, and again, I know this, but like people may not realise, you do spend a lot of time putting your set list together, and you really think about it a lot, don't you? And I think that's great. I think that really shows, because some you just sort of turn up and sort of shuffle about, like, what do you want to play? Then I don't know, what do you want to play? But you've always tried to get the set list, don't you? And so you think is that something you always felt, or do you think did you always feel that, but maybe with Humph it kind of solidified in your mind, or did you learn that from Humph, do you think?
I think it's something that kind of evolved through and do guest spots. In the early days, when I started getting offered to do these guest spots, I was kind of like, just sort of turn up and what tunes do you know. But the thing is, I've got terrible memory, so I can't remember things. Tunes I've practiced like 10,000 times, it doesn't go in, or it go in, but then it goes out again. So I was thinking, well, I need music, and it's unfair of me to expect the trio to be able to play all the repertoire that I know. So I like to, get all the tunes that I want to do, and obviously I let them do trio features, or in advance I'll ask them what tunes they want to do, sometimes or sometimes not. I'm a bit of a dictator, like, you're going to play this, and so I just prepare the charts, so everybody's got charts, and I've got a set list. I can't think on my feet, I just go into blind panic mode, and if I'm on a stage and I just forget everything, so I even write my own name down. It's like, Joe Fooks on saxophone, Buster Birch on drums.
I've seen my name on your set list written down, but I know what you mean. I get that. It's very easy to go very blank when you put a mic in your hand, or in my case just waffle and talk a load of nonsense. But no, I think that preparation thing is nothing. I think that's a good thing. I think it just means you care and you're doing right. We should probably say, some people that are listening may not appreciate what you mean when you say guest spot. So perhaps you just want to tell them about that, about what's involved.
Yeah, there's lots of little jazz clubs dotted around all over the place, and they'll generally, quite a few of them, they'll have a resident trio, and so I'll be invited to play with them, and they might contact me a week before, some of them, and you say, oh, these are the tunes I've got, and I'll send you any of the charts. So you just sort of turn up and play, and sometimes you'll be paired up with, like Steve Waterman, Alan Barnes, all these great musicians, and again, I like to get in touch with them and see what tunes are you going to do, and I'll do this one, or any tunes you want to do, just bring charts. I need charts, so
so the venues book the guest, like the front act, the front guest artist would be, like a saxophone or a trumpet. Sometimes they book two, sometimes it's, but they'll have a resident house, what they call a house trio. So you're quite often playing with musicians that you don't know, that you may not. I mean, you've done the circuit quite a bit now, so they all know you and they all love you and they book you a lot. So you've been round the scene a few times. But like when you first started, you were playing with musicians that you'd never met before, and I don't think the audiences always quite realise. They seem to think there's loads of rehearsing involved and things like that, and because you just turn up and you just got to play, haven't you? And it's quite a challenge to do that. Great. Look, let's move on. So, talking of then, of course, there's other people that you work with a lot, and that you get to know, and that and I'm thinking, of course, about Sue. So, because we're going to play one of her tracks. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about Sue and working with Sue and playing on her album?
Sue's a really amazing person, like a very natural, fantastic singer, just really natural. Just, I remember hearing her for the first time, and it's just a gig just near where we live. Can't remember what it's called. It wasn't Three Horseshoes, and I just remember I was sitting next to this. Turns out I was sitting next to her mum, and I was like, "Oh my God, this woman's amazing." She went, "Oh, that's my daughter, that is."
Oh,
and
that's
it's literally the hairs in the back of my neck went up as soon as the hairdressing. And not only can she sing just phenomenally, she's just a lovely person, and she's a very maternal person, and she's been there for me in lots of times when things have gone a bit off. She's just been there, like come for a walk. She's a lovely lady, and I'm so lucky to played on both her CDs, and just think she's brilliant. And so I think I picked "Comes Love" from her CD.
"Comes Love," indeed, and this is a great track, and it features you. And yes, we should say so. Sue Rivers. This is the Sue Rivers Quintet, and the album is called "From the Very Start." It's from 2010, and it features Sue Rivers singing, Joe Fooks on the saxophone, Jim Trewig on the piano, Pete Ringrose on the bass, and myself on the drums. So this is "Comes Love."
Comes a rainstorm, put your wellies on your feet. Comes a snowstorm, you can get a little heat. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes a fire, well, you know just what to do. Blow a tire, you can buy another shoe. Comes love, nothing can be done. Don't try hiding, 'cause it isn't any use. You'll start sliding when your heart turns on the juice. Comes a headache, you can lose it in a day. Comes a toothache, see your dentist right away. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes a heat wave, you can hurry to the shore. Comes a summons, you can hide behind the door. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes the measles, you can quarantine the room. Comes a mousey, you can chase it with a broom. Comes love, nothing can be done. That's all, sister. stay awake comes depression. You may get another break comes love. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be
Yeah, that was Comes Love from the album From the Very Start, and that album is by the Sue Rivers Quintet. Sue Rivers on voice there, and my guest Joe Fooks on the saxophone. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Sue's voice is just unbelievable. She's got this perfect intonation. She's got this incredible sound and tone, and that diction as well. And she doesn't have that sort of American kind of twang that a lot of singers find they kind of end up doing. And it's just quite remarkable, isn't it? It really is. And as you say, she's a lovely person. So if you want to check out that album, folks, then go to SueRivers.com. You'll find out there's 2 albums Sue's done. I think what we should do. Oh, there's a few more comments in the chat box. So thanks everybody for joining in. And Jakeman says she's enjoying the show hugely and has heard us often at the Warren. Yeah, well, we'll hopefully get back there maybe later in the year, Anne. Alan Peach says hello from Lincolnshire, and he's enjoying the music and the photos. And Dave Griffiths is in the house.
Hi, Dave.
So very fine. I hope you're doing well, mate. And so we got a nice little few selection of pictures there. We just got a little loop running round on a few pictures, and Sue features in a lot of those. So including some lovely cruise gigs we did. Yes. But so do you want to do you mind just chatting a little bit about how you got started, and perhaps talking about up to college and things like that? Because I know you've worked incredibly hard to get to where you are, and perhaps it'd be nice for people to know a bit more about how you got going with music, really.
Well, kind of, I come from a very arty family. So my dad used to run some art classes, and my brothers are great artists, and mum's a fantastic artist. And I used to quite enjoy drawing and stuff, but I always got a bit bored. So sometimes you'd be drawing a model, and I'd do the head and then get bored. And so I just decided to put the person in a swimming pool. So I don't have to draw the rest of the body.
Brilliant. Shortcut,
so I don't have much
or quicksand.
Yeah, literally. It was each week I was like, what can you be doing now? It was usually painting my oldest brother. He'd be like the model, and so I got, I think, various pictures at home with him, and just his head in various situations, because I got bored. I didn't want to draw the rest of it. So I kind of knew art wasn't for me. And mum had a piano from work, and I started piano lessons at 10. I got a really great piano teacher who really inspired me, Miss Michael. She was amazing, really quite crazy, but I just loved her. And started clarinet, went to secondary school, didn't really take to the clarinet too much, and got a saxophone for my 15th birthday. And I just love the saxophone. If it wasn't for the saxophone, I definitely wouldn't be a musician. I just love that instrument. It's just like shiny, curvy, noisy, and really easy. It's a really easy instrument.
I don't know about that.
It is. It's really easy. It's like a modern instrument. It's one of the easiest ones to learn. It's heavy, but it's just, I love it. And it's just noisy. I love it. You
do like making a lot of noise, don't you? Yeah.
I do. I love noise. I hate silence. Love it. So through playing the saxophone, I went and did there was a school sort of thing organised little jazz courses. Scott Stroman would come up from Guildhall, and he was amazing. I think you interviewed Scott Stroman a while back.
Yes, Scott's one of my guests. Yeah.
Very inspirational, and I was about 15, 16 at the time, and just kind of fell in love with him, really. He was just so inspiring,
Yeah.
really great. And then I'd go on other jazz summer courses up in Scotland, and they're very special places. If anybody's thinking about doing a jazz course, go on them. I remember it just felt so
I know a
welcomed.
good one they can go to as well, yeah.
Which one's that, Pastor?
Called the original UK Jazz Summer School. Yes, very good, yes. Although I think we've sold all the places already for this year. So what you're talking about is regionally, so where you were in Edinburgh, where you're growing up, so you'd get these visiting kind of groups, people like Scott Stroman coming up from London, bringing the music out and do these sort of educational outreach kind of programs.
Yeah, it was like for West Lothian, I think it was like a Lothian thing. So I'm actually from Livingston, about 15 miles outside of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So it was kids from lots of different schools. So you suddenly met all these people. I didn't go to a particularly posh school, but you meet kids from just all different backgrounds. And it was just lovely, really good. And then discovered a great little jazz club in Edinburgh on a Saturday morning called Platform One. Used to sort of go to that. There was Dave Swanson, who was so lovely to me, got me lots of gigs, a drummer, really nice. Alec Shaw was a piano player. Again, it was just this scene, and it was more, I got more into jazz through the people as opposed to the music. You turn up, and I was always a bit of an outsider at school, and suddenly I joined this club, and I was like, come sit with me, you're part of us. And people give me tapes of, Dexter Gordon, Stan Getz, Art Pepper.
I think jazz musicians are very generous, aren't they? And generally quite welcoming, because I think if you're a young person, a particularly young musician, and you come up to, an old jazz musician and say, I love this, they welcome you with open arms, don't they? Because they're just only too pleased that somebody else likes it. I think that tends to be kind of quite a common theme, isn't it?
And I just love, like, you go out to a jazz gig and it's like, I'm quite shy, so you've got that little bit, there's music playing, you can interact, you can clap, you can holler, which I was like making a lot of noise, and that was quite fun. And then it's like, then it's a little bit of a break and you can chat, and then it's back to the music. And I just love that, the whole thing about jazz is that kind of, it's very welcoming. Like, anybody can go to a jazz club. I used to go to clubs on my own, just turn up.
Yes,
incredibly
good point.
Safe.
It's something you can do on your own, isn't it? Yeah. So
very
you had this.
friendly.
So there's a story about your saxophone as well, though, wasn't it? There was a gift involved, or some money, or something. Was it your granddad?
Well, my granddad left. Well, when my granddad died, he left us all £500 each, which back then was quite a chunk of money. And I just started at Napier University, and I was wild. Oh my God! It was suddenly, college parties. And I remember on the first day I called up Mum and they said, I've been invited to the pub, is it okay if I go to the pub? Mum said, you're a student now, you can do whatever you like. And I was like, oh, really? And that was Fantastic. It. I was like, every night. And I had because that was Napier, so actually had a really good grant back then, because I wasn't paying for any accommodation, but I got this grant that was cover accommodation. So it's the first time in my life having any money, and I just blew it all on pizzas and beer.
Right, so you got a place at a local college to study music, and you did a year. Was it a year or 2 years? 2 years.
Fantastic course. It was really good. It's like one of these up and coming courses where you're spoon fed everything, and it was just really, really good, really good. And Tommy Smith came in my second year there to teach the jazz. I was doing a bit of classical, and he was really good, very, very, again, very encouraging, very warm.
And you had one-to-one lessons with him as well, didn't you?
I had a few. I think I had a few. You do classes, and then he would. Yes, I think I did have quite a few lessons with him. Very nice man. And then came down to.
And after that, then you auditioned for the Guildhall, is that right? And then you got a place and came to London.
Yeah, came to London, and it took me a little while because I was used to Edinburgh, a very small community and very warm and welcoming. And just London, it was a bit overwhelming at first because it's such a huge place and you have to find. But gradually put my roots down, and it's just great, And again, there's so many, London can be quite a cold place, but if you know where to go, you got the spice of life, like once a week, and it's a whole group of people, the same group go every time. You got the various little jazz clubs, and jazz music just warms the world up, just with the people and the musicians, and it's just a great thing. It's great. I'm very, very lucky. I'm very glad.
And the Berkeley course, perhaps, and you had a summer. You got a scholarship for a summer program. You went to Berkeley for. What is it, 6 weeks or something?
Yeah, it was just 6 weeks. Tommy Smith got me on, he kind of knew and I didn't have much money, and he sort of got me on the Berkeley, did these outreach things. They went up to Glasgow for a week and did one of these summer courses. So I went and did that, and I think think Tommy Smith organised that. I didn't have to pay anything. So we went and did this course. And then from that, they said, oh, if you want to come to America, you don't have to pay anything. And I was like, okay. So I just had to pay for it. And my lovely big brother, Simon, he paid for my flights and a bit of money for accommodation. So I went out there for 6 weeks, which was fun. You know.
And was that at the beginning of the Guildhall or in between?
That was just the summer before I met you, actually. So that was between my second and third.
So you were already at the Guildhall? Oh yeah, because I was never quite sure about that. Yeah. So, and then you did 4 years at the Guildhall, which is the 4-year full degree music degree program, which is a serious amount of study. And I know how hard you worked there, and you really did put the work in.
He made that course really valuable. I was a bit lost for the first 2 years because we had to do a lot of classical stuff, and classical saxophone, it's not really classical. It's modern 20th century music. You know, it's not my cup of tea. You know, it's got to be perfect, and I'm not perfect. I like to honk. And then and then Simon Purcell was great. He came in and started teaching us in the second, third and fourth year. And from being just kind of floating around, wanting to practice, but not really knowing what I should be practicing, Simon Purcell came along and it's just like bite-sized chunks. Go and learn that. If you haven't learned this by next week, then you're going to fall behind. He was fantastic. And and it was great. Met you there, so that was lovely. So,
it's a long time ago now, isn't it?
It's a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, Simon Purcell is he's one of these. He's taught everyone, and he's a real guru and a mentor and a credible teacher. And we're both very lucky to have had him as our professors. And then of course when you did your first recording, you got him to play piano on it, which we're going to play some of later, which I think is lovely. Well, I think we should play another track. Yeah. So
there's a quiz on this one. Is this the preacher one?
No, not yet. We're not got to there yet. We're on to playing.
Okay. Lovely.
We're on to playing. So this is from your second album. So you've got 3 albums, all totally original music, which you produced all yourself, which was amazing. It was a very a very productive time for you of writing and all your own tunes and making these albums. And we recorded them all at Derek Nash's place. I mean, there's a few pictures. That's what those pictures are of us in the studio and that. And so this was 2008. The album's called Playing. And this is the title track. And there's a little funny story to this as well, isn't there? Do you remember it?
Yeah, well, we used to live, we had a flat, your first flat, and there was this lovely family who lived next door, and they had about...
It was on a little housing estate, wasn't it? And there was all loads of little kids, and they'd always sort of, because we were home a lot, so they'd kind of end up... we'd end up mucking it.
Asking us to come out and play. And there's a little boy called Sully, wasn't he? And
Sully.
He was just so creative. He's probably
sweet. Yeah.
Nearly 30 now.
I think it started off because the football kept coming over in the garden. So I was kicking it back. And then we ended up playing football basically over the fence. Because only little fences, weren't there, about waist height. And then they were chucking things and I was chucking them back. And in the end, we were messing about a lot. And then they would come round and play in our garden, wouldn't they? And then that was it. That whole summer, they were just sort of all these kids
They come knock on the doors like, Buster coming out to play.
It's
and
hilarious.
he said, oh, can we swap clothes with you? Couldn't he? So he said, so I can just sit in my garden all day.
Oh, he was having a bit of trouble at school. He said, can we swap clothes? I said, what for? I don't think so. Not really. I'm thinking, oh, hello. I can't. What can I say? I said, why do you want to swap clothes? He goes, I want you to go to school instead of me. He goes, I said, and what are you going to do? He said, I'll just stay home all day and water the plants. That's what he thought all I did. Like, that's all I do. Anyway, sorry, yes. So, and one day you said to him, what have you been up to?
And he said, oh, playing. And I was like,
playing.
Oh, that's so nice. So it was dedicated to the family next door when we lived in Halstead.
Yeah. And this is called Playing. Here we go. hope you're enjoying the show. I just want to take a moment to tell you about a new way that you can help support me do this, and that is through patreon.com. That's right, I've got an account now, so the link's below here, patreon.com Buster Birch, and if you go along to there, you can now make donations by Visa credit card, so you don't have to use PayPal if you don't want to do that. And the advantage of Patreon is that once you do it once, it will automatically deduct on a per show basis. So instead of having to fill in the forms every week, if you want to make a regular donation, then that will just automatically deduct straight to your credit card each per show. And that is hugely helpful to me, because it means I know that I've got a certain amount coming in every time I do a show, and that really helps me plan ahead and keeps the viable sustainability of the show going. There's 2 levels of sponsorship. There's my silver and gold membership. All of my Patreon supporters will get a big thank you personally from me live on the show, and the gold member sponsors will get an additional Spotify playlist which will be sent to you each week. It's something that I'm putting together. It's personally curated by me and will feature lots more albums by the guest artists each week. So it's a great opportunity to get to know this music much better. If you're really enjoying the show and you like the little tasters that you're hearing, that's a great way to get to know this music even more and enjoy in full comfort the full sound of the full albums. Thanks very much. Back to the show. That's right, and my guest this evening is the great Joe Fooks. Thanks for joining us this evening, and another cracking tune there, Joe. It's you write these really great tunes, great melodies, lots of energy, and they're really getting your ear. You know, they're really catchy, but they've got a kind of like layers to them as well. Do you find that when you compose, do things sort of pop in your head? I mean, I know the answers to these. So, but for the audience, does some tunes just come to you and then you write it down, or is it a process of working through things? And do you have a certain formula? I know you had a period where you were writing loads and you produced a lot of compositions in quite a short time. And I know you're kind of not done so much lately, but I'm sure it will come back again at some point.
Well, I'd just be like sitting, at piano, waiting for a student to turn up.
Yeah.
And it would usually start. A lot of my tunes, like tune I wrote for Hamburg with M25, playing. They often started off with a bass line. I'd come up with a little bass line, and then fit a melody towards it. When you say sorry to interrupt, but when you say you come up with a bass line, did it sort of pop in your head and then you wrote it down, or was it you were kind of noodling about, messing around with the piano,
right?
Come up with a bass line and then just try and get a few kind of chords. So like playing in M25 was kind of just a kind of chords, like triads on top of a bass line, and then
the melody comes last on top of that. Interesting.
And in other tunes, you just start a tune, and there's certain chord progressions that I really like. There's a chord progression towards I remember Clifford, and that kind of, then there's a kind of gospel kind of chord progression, and as chord progression it's used, I tend to nick that progression a lot. All of Me chord progression, very jolly, sort of almost old jazz standards. And sometimes you think, where am I going to go with this? I could do that. I could go to that chord because I quite like that sound. And so a lot of my tunes have kind of got elements of I Remember Clifford, All of Me. I'm letting on my trade secrets away. But so sometimes you come up with sometimes like some tunes would just come really easily, and some of the best tunes would just come really easily, and you think, where did that come from? That's amazing. And in other tunes you just have to work away at it and leave it for a bit, come back to it, and chisel
so it just
away. Some bits I hear the tunes go, I don't really like what I did with the bridge there, but hey, it's too late if recorded it.
I just want to clarify, because what you're talking about is you're not talking about contrafacts, which is another whole thing in jazz, where you write a different head over a chord sequence from another tune. I guess what you're talking about is kind of harmonic language, of which is kind of stylistic maybe to a certain extent as well.
certain chords have a tendency to go to that chord or this chord, and you have a whole lot of options. And the repertoire of tunes that I like, I go, well, that tune tends to go there, and that works really well. Oh, I'll go there. You know.
So it's familiar harmonic kind of landscape that you're used to, based on the kind of traditional, not traditional, but sort of tunes that you would have.
That I know.
The language,
the tunes that I'm kind of attracted to. Like I do really like.
Oh, it makes sense.
1920s tunes, because again, try to write happy tunes. A lot of the 1920s and 30s tunes were very happy.
Yeah. Well, the Great American Songbook. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, can you? I mean, it's pretty tried and tested. It's great material. Great. Well, that's very interesting. I think that process. I think this idea of the process of music, of how music is created, I think it's really interesting because there's so many different ways of doing it. And I think it's something a lot of audiences are really not aware of, the process as jazz musicians, and how different that is.
I just want to say as well, what got me into composing, again, it was my students. I was teaching at this school, and a lot of the times I often think things should be very complicated and overcomplicate things. And as these two little girls came in, they were only primary kids, and said, oh, miss, we've written your tune, do you want to hear it? And it was gorgeous. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was very simple. And it just made, it was like a light bulb went off. It's like, it doesn't have to be complicated. Keep it simple.
Right.
So I learned through this, again, I learned from my students.
So it's almost like you got to unlearn 4 years of music conservatoire training to appreciate the simplicity of music. Yes, that is a good point.
And I do find it if I come up with a bass line and a melody line, that's all you need. It's just that you can get a lot. But. Yeah.
But what we're talking about is the composition. Then of course, when you're improvising, you can play all this other stuff on top of that sequence. But the bare bones of the actual piece, the melody, and that's the bit that people kind of hear and listen to and latch onto, don't they? Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Sometimes the chords will come first, sometimes they'll come last.
Right. So there's not one way. It's not a fixed thing. It just depends. And I guess this is the kind of the craft of it, isn't it? The craft of, and people. I know the time and effort and work you put in, and it's just slogging away sometimes, isn't it? And what you don't do is you don't give up. You just keep going at it until you get it, don't you? And sometimes it can be a few days, can't it, on one tune? Years. Okay. Well, look, maybe we should play another tune and. What we should say there is that last track featured a lovely guitar solo from Dave Cliff, beautiful playing there. And Dave is a guest on my show, one of the earlier guests. So do check out if you want to hear more Dave Cliff. We had Ted Beeman on the piano, who we're going to hear some more from in a minute, and we had Ed Harrison on the bass there. And do you remember? Yeah, Ed is a great bass player who. He moved to Manchester, didn't we? We used to play together a lot for a while there, and then he moved up to Manchester. So we hope he's doing well. So this next track you've picked is not one of your tunes. It's a great standard. I bet you wish it was your tune with the royalties on this. And this is The Preacher, which is...
it's actually based on Show Me the Way to Go Home, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Horace Silver tune, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was apparently he used to play "Show Me the Way to Go Home" at the end of his gigs when he was fed up and they keep asking for more encores and he's tired, so he would play that as a hint. And then in the end he wrote a composition on it. So sorry. So you were saying this is going to feature Ted.
Feature Ted and Al Nichols.
Al Nichols.
We had a little. We recorded an album together.
That's right.
And this is we started off. I think we were paired up as a guest spot, and then there was just sort of nice chemistry. And
was that at Folkestone? Was that the first one? The Folkestone Jazz Club. They used to book you a lot.
Probably Susan May, actually.
Oh, maybe yes.
I think it's probably Susan May paired us together.
Yeah.
And it was just really, really fun. Then and Al asked me to be on his. Asked if we could do a CD together. And we did this, and there's a little quiz on here. I can't see any chat box, but we solo consecutively. So see who can figure out who solos first on the saxophone. Is it me or is it Al?
Oh, well, there you go, folks. Jo loves a quiz. She loves a quiz. So you got to put in the chat box who do you think the first. Which is the order? Should we say what's the order of the saxophone solos? So it's either Al Nichols and Joe Fooks, or Joe Fooks then Al Nichols. So see if you can guess that. And we have to give and this is the rhythm section is Ted Beeman, Val Mannix, who we sadly lost, not so long ago, and very deeply missed. And Val was on nearly all your albums, apart from that last one we heard with Ed. And we miss. I loved playing with Val. it always really swung. And the thing with bass players and drummers is it just clicks straight away, like from the first bar, you know. If it or never, you know, or it never will, you know. And it certainly did with Val. We do miss him dearly. And so this features Val and Ted at the beginning. A nice bit of gospel
love
piano
it.
from Ted. Here we go then. And this is called The Preacher. And the album is Just You, Just Me. So maybe I'll put some links in below for this. Here we go. Fantastic, and well done, everybody. So the quiz, Joe loves a quiz, don't you?
I do.
Do you want to give the results? Somebody said, Dave says Joe did the drum solo, which is well, you've impressed me there, love. If that was you on the drums, so you've been practicing when I'm out. So go on then, reveal the
drum roll, Buster. It was Al first and then me second.
So it was,
well done those who got it. I can't see what the answers whatever.
You can look afterwards. Yeah, it was Al Nichols on the first solo and Joe on the second solo. Well done. And there's been a few comments as well about Ed Harrison. John Quinn said he's played with Ed, and Paul Dinnish says, "Hi Paul, hope you're well. He was down in London just before the lockdown. So if do pass on our best if anyone sees Ed." That's another great fun track. A very swinging band. That we've had a lot of great fun gigs with that quintet, and it's interesting having the two tenor saxophones at the front, because you don't think it necessarily works, but you and Al, you really complement each other. You always play off each other very well, and in a nice way. And I thought, and it's like it's not competitive in that way, you know. Sometimes that's nice to see, isn't it? But perhaps I think nicer to watch than to be part of if you're in the band, you know, like this sort of like to the classic tenor battle, you know. But you play nicely together, and I think you complement each other rather than compete. You know, music shouldn't be competition. No. So there's some nice comments there. Yeah. Well, I guess we were going to just briefly touch on something that happened to you a few years ago now. It's all worked out well, so we can mention it. But you were riding high. Everything's going well. You're getting busy. You've done 3 albums. You toured all over the place with Hump's band, and you were getting a very busy kind of schedule as a guest artist at a lot of these clubs, which is not easy to get in on, and you were doing really well. And then of course one day you just woke up and it was a total disaster.
Well, I just came down with Bell's palsy, woke up, I remember I went to brush my teeth and I couldn't spit properly. And I was
spit
like,
the toothpaste out.
What is it? You're right. And then you're like, oh my God, I think we should go to hospital. And then, so it was a very scary day. It just turned out to be Bell's palsy.
Well, you say just, I mean, it was a good year and a half without playing at all.
It was like a rehearsal for lockdown. I think, you know, it was kind of and actually I think the Bell's palsy year was hard, like so far, like if we get out of this lockdown soon, I'd say the Bell's palsy year was the worst year I've ever had. Just because I love playing the saxophone and I literally had to put out the loft for a whole year. And that was
really very and what was worse, one doctor said, well, you'll never play again, you might as well get another career. I mean, which was I mean, that's the last thing you want to hear, isn't it? You know.
But you were brilliant, Bus. You know, you every morning I'd look in the mirror, hadn't improved, and bubble, because 5 minutes, how we bubble, get out of the system, and you're like, no, you'll play again, and you had total confidence. And you said one day you'll look back, and I was like, oh, did that actually happen? And it's true, that's what's happened. You know, I think, I remember 2013 because that's my lucky number. So I'm not looking forward to 2023.
So it's 8 years ago, crikey. Yeah,
it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But that was like, there was a year and a half, and again, silver linings. We decided to get married, didn't we? Because it was just woke up and we realised, oh my gosh, life is so precious, and we need to celebrate the good things. And
you played at our wedding. That was the first time you played again in public, didn't you? And that was quite a moment.
Really badly, and I wanted to cry
Didn't
after
matter.
that.
Didn't matter. No, you sounded great. You played great. Just the thing, you could get a note out of the thing, because I don't think people realise it's essentially, it looks like you've had a stroke, but it's not. It's something else. And what happens is the nerve dies, and essentially you cannot control anything. And I remember you couldn't actually shut your eye, could you, for eight months?
No, it was a year.
Was it a year?
Yeah, so I would win any blinking contests.
Just one side. It's like the whole thing just doesn't work.
A line right down to the neck.
It's really strange, isn't it?
Really strange.
And
it just drops as well. So this corner of the mouth doesn't go up.
Well, no one would know now. You look great. It's all come back. But the point is, it just you just wake up and that's it. It's the most strangest thing, and no one knows anything about it. No doctors can. They got no. There's very little knowledge.
I woke up
Sorry.
and it was just a little bit of movement that wasn't working. And then throughout the space of 24 hours, I remember we went to the hospital, then the next day I could blink. And then I went to the doctors because the hospital said go to the doctors. And it was there that I just couldn't blink. And that was really panicky because I was like literally having to find my eyelid and pull it down, you know. So, but it's just again, there's lots of silver linings, good things that came out of that. And I think people will look back on this coronavirus and hopefully can focus on silver linings.
Yeah.
Can say, well, that was a terrible thing, but from that, you know, this happens, and you know, focus on that. You know.
Well, I think the difference with coronavirus is that we're all suffering.
Yes.
You know, so, I mean, we were only half joking the other day when we said, "Well, it's only, you know, it's bad having all your gigs cancelled." But it's comforting to know that everyone else has had theirs all cancelled as well.
That's really bad. You shouldn't laugh.
But of course, something like this is not that at all, and it was a really terrible thing to be struck down with. So absolutely, and everywhere you go, the doctors don't know anything about it. There's very little research. They haven't really got a clue how it works. It's different for everyone. You don't know if you're ever going to get better again, and just wake up like that one day. It was and you were remarkable. The way you handled that was unbelievable. It's really something. Having dedicated your entire life to playing the saxophone, and then just one day, boom, gone like that.
Well, it puts life in perspective, and from that, I kind of realised that I was putting too many eggs in the saxophone basket, you know, and it made me realise like we're going to spend time with family, find other things to enjoy, like from that.
And of course, you found and there's a picture there, And not only got into it, you got really good at it. You were quite obsessed with it.
Just obsessed, completely obsessed.
Well, we're talking 5 nights a week at various clubs.
No,
6
every day.
7? Did you get up to 7 nights? I lost track. Yeah, so you became a very seriously good ping pong player.
It's such a great game. But
and
I'll get back to that again. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, so when that's over, that's what because you haven't done any of it. Anyway, so we digress. But I think you were remarkable the way you dealt with all that and the way you came through that. There were some very dark days, but and I think there's a lot of people out there who are very pleased to see you and hear you back again on the scene playing again. You know, so.
I had you by my side, so that made it all fine.
Oh right, okay, that's enough of this. So. Yeah. So, well, look, let's play another track. So, this is we're going to play something now from your first album, and this is another one you dedicated to another friend,
Katie Samways.
Yeah, who's a great saxophone player, we should say, who you met through college. You was a student at college.
Well, it was a flat share.
So of course.
She had to share with Katie for about 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure.
She went to the Royal College, didn't she? She was at a different college.
And she just loves everything. There's nothing, and I found out that she doesn't really like Brussels sprouts, but she just says I quite like them.
So it's an incredible positive attitude, right? So this record was dedicated to Katie and her incredibly positive attitude, and it's another one of your very catchy tunes, and the tune is called "Quite Like Brussels Sprouts." And the album, of course, we should say, is Here and Now. And again, it's on your website, everyone. You can get all the albums off of Joe's website, and the link is below, or it will be soon if it's not there now. So here we go. Quite likes Brussels sprouts. Yeah, fantastic. And that was Quite Likes Brussels Sprouts, one of my guest compositions, the wonderful Joe Fooks, who's sharing all this lovely music. It's been great, Joe, and it's nice to see those pictures as well. You can't see them, but you might see them a bit later. But there's some nice shots there of some of the cruises we've done, and it's quite nice sometimes going back and looking over some of these things, isn't it? It's a lot of gigs with.
I have to say, like the first cruise I ever did, like because you did quite a few cruises before. Like when we've been going out for about 5 months or something like that when we first. And then Buster got offered, he'd finished Guildhall, I was still at Guildhall, and he got offered a cruise. You went to Caribbean, and you went to all these beautiful places, and you sent me back photographs of just like stunning beaches. And then like a few years later, Buster went on a 2-week cruise and needed another band, so you got me on it. And and I turned up on this cruise expecting...
Sorry, hang on, sorry, it's not quite like that. So it was like, I'd done a cruise, and then... It was a 2-week job on this lovely little ship, very nice little stops. And we got to the end and they said, can you stay and do another 2 weeks? And I was like, well, I can't. I've got to get back. I've got work's promised. But I said, and they said, oh, we need a band for next week. They hadn't booked a band, So I said, well, my wife's a saxophone player. She can book the band. So they booked. So that's how that comes. So they got you. So then you got booked to do the following 2 weeks.
I was expecting like white Caribbean sound. But we went to Lebanon, Beirut, Syria. I can't remember.
You did this Middle East tour, didn't you? And it was all the kind of places out the Bible, as I recall.
Yeah,
it was not. They were not in the best shape, were they, at the time?
Syria was basically it's I think 20 years ago or something like that. But there was trouble there. There
was a lot of trouble. Yeah.
You'd come out of because you're in a little dark room at the bottom of the ship, and when you come out, I think, where are we now? We came up, and there's black flies everywhere, and it just smelled of sewage.
Bullet holes in the walls, and
this cruise cost these people thousands of pounds. Why would you come here? I was expecting Caribbean beaches. Instead, we got like armed kind of protection, police following us, and then just
you had to get armed guards, didn't you?
Yeah. And I think I had to talk to you like on the phone, and there was a boat. I think it was circling our ship. And
because they get the pirates attacking the cruise ships.
Get back in. I was like, oh, right, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was
You weren't very best pleased with that, were you? I remember.
Yeah.
But
bombs.
Then we went on a few together after that, didn't we? We had some lovely trips with some very nice bandmates, and we had a lot of good times, and it's not a bad life that on those sort of gigs. So we've had a lot of fun. It's been great, and long may it continue.
Yes. So return all back. Get back.
Well, I was funny enough. I was reading the other day. There's the Italian cruise ship doing really well because they're testing everyone. They're really strict and they've sold out. So strangely, I think the cruise ships might maybe them great big ones, maybe not so much, but the smaller ones might start doing better if they're quite strict with it. Who knows? I don't know. I think it's all going to come back, and I think you're going to be very busy with your Uptown Girl new project and all your guest spots. I think that you've already been asked, haven't you, for a few? You've got a few things in the book. We have to say a big thank you and shout out to all the jazz promoters that are working hard.
And
John Levette, there we go. John Levette and Susan May, of course, and Marion Ockenden, well. and of course this is murder doing this because you're gonna forget someone, aren't you? You're gonna. Oh, what about me? You didn't say my name. It's been tough, but I think things are looking up. I think it's going to be quite an interesting. If the next month goes all right, I think we'll be busy this summer. Yeah, certainly by the autumn anyway. And let's hope. So, thank you for coming on the show and being my guest this evening. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And thanks for all your lovely comments. Paul says he remembers you playing with Vasilis and Nigel Price at Portsmouth Jazz Club a few years back. So, you do. Yeah, you play with all the top guys at these guest spots. You do,
and they're all very nice. That's what's lovely. You turn up a bit terrified because they're such great musicians, and they're so lovely. They're really nice.
Well, you're just as good as them. You can hold your own. It's absolutely. They could book anyone. They book you, don't they? So, Oh, Pete's just joined us. Hello, Pete. Good to see you. And yeah, I'm sure you'll catch up. So what we're gonna do is, I must say, before I go, next week I've got Mark Edwards, a fantastic piano player and a wonderful musician, really interesting musician. Some of you, he's on the south coast, so if you're anywhere around the Brighton area, you'll definitely know him. And if you're not and you don't know him, he's definitely one to check out. Brilliant piano player, but some really interesting composer. Great band, the Clogs, one of our favourite bands.
Yes.
So I'll be looking forward to playing some of his music. So do check in next week, and then I think the week after that is Bobby Worth, the great Bobby Worth. Brilliant. So it's got some great guests coming up. And don't forget, if you have enjoyed the show and the music this evening, and then please do consider a donation, ladies and gentlemen. You get any amount is always gratefully received. You can make a one-off donation on PayPal, the link's below, or you can join my Patreon and become a regular patron. It's all there. So thanks again. Thank you for standing in this evening, Joe, and it's been really nice playing your music. And what we're going to do is my regular listeners will recognise the play out music. We do what I do is I do a play out, and then I have my little tag on the end, and I nick that from one of your records. I nick the play in music is also one of your tracks, the Here and Now. But this play out is called Light Dancing. And it's such a great track, and it's from your third album, Back for More. It's Joe on tenor, Ted Beeman on the piano, Dave Cliff on the guitar, Val Mannix on the bass, and myself on the drums, and Derek Nash is playing the baritone sax on this track. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing a play out and then doing the tag, I'm going to play out with the proper full version of the tune. So here we go. So that's it, folks. Thanks very much. Thanks again, Joe. Thanks for joining in. And we're going to finish on this. This is called, the title of the name of this track is called Light Dancing, and it's from the album Back for More. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye. Good night.